The Obama appointee judge on the D.C. Circuit was loud, obnoxious, interrupting. She's very, very upset that the Trump administration wants to send the Venezuelan gang members back. She says, without due process. I'm going to get into this. You're going to hear what she did in part. It's really quite pathetic what's going on here. I mean, honest to God, they're here illegally. What's the due process? Not only are they here illegally, but let's say they were caught at the border. There would be no process whatsoever. They would be caught and returned almost immediately. So these judges are bending over backwards to create due process. They know that the American people like that phrase. And also to talk about free speech, the First Amendment. When it comes to Khalil, they know the American people like that phrase. But we're talking about people who are here illegally. They're here illegally. As they say, more into that later. Also, The Atlantic, which is a fairly radical left website. I don't even know if they have a magazine anymore. It's run by this guy. I think his name's Jeffrey Goldberg. His name is irrelevant, actually. But he writes today that he was accidentally, I suppose, put on a security chain. Texts with top administration officials about their military plans to hit the Houthis, which, of course, we have and are. Among other things, that shows J.D. Vance wants to wait 3 weeks because the Europeans have more at stake than we do. I don't know what's going on with this kind of thinking. The Europeans have more than we do with respect to the Houthis. Haven't they shot like 60 times at American military ships, Mr. Producer? As well as our commercial ships. I don't... The Europeans have more to lose. I mean, this is an enemy. They're shooting at our ships in international navigable waters. Anyway, that aside, how can it be an accident? Now, maybe it is. Maybe it was an error. But how does this guy wind up on a text chain, according to reports? You know, with the vice president, the secretary of defense, the secretary of state, the national security advisor, and a handful of others. How is that possible? Unless this report is not accurate. That this clown, this moron, this guy Goldberg, is on the text chain. They said, we're going to investigate. You know, it's obviously a national security issue, which it is. But the question is, was it a mistake or was it a leak? I guess we'll find out. You know, there's people who don't want us to attack the Houthis. I find these people who talk this way, they remind me of the defund movement in the United States, where they don't want our police to push back against the criminals, where they want the source prosecutors to let the criminals out on the streets. We have enemies overseas with big weapons. Big weapons. And what are we supposed to do? Wait until they attack us at Pearl Harbor again? I mean, I don't understand. You read the early founders. You know, people cite Washington's farewell address. Hey, see that? See that? You got to actually read Washington's farewell address rather than be handed 2 paragraphs from it. He was assisted in his views in that and writing it by Hamilton and Jefferson and a few others. So it's really worth looking at. He was arguing we really can't take the side of Britain or France. We don't have a military strong enough. You know, we're a brand new country. And we got to find our legs, basically, he's saying. We got to find our legs first. So we should avoid entanglements, foreign entanglements. But he argued, Jefferson argued, more than Adams, we don't have to sit around and wait to be attacked. Jefferson, who sent our Navy to destroy the pirates off Somalia. They were taking our commercial ships, much like the Houthis attacking our commercial ships, but they were taking our commercial ships, and they were enslaving the sailors. There you actually had black Somalis enslaving white Americans, just for those who keep track of race out there. But in any event, that's what they were doing. Adams was trying to negotiate. He wasn't getting anywhere. He didn't want to send the Navy. Jefferson did. And he crushed the pirates. Crushed them. But he also said, and he's not the only one, what are we supposed to do? Wait till we're attacked? If we see on the horizon people are preparing to attack us? No, I don't think so. We have an Obama-appointed judge who's a radical, hardcore lefty. I notice in her bio she's argued more cases than any other woman in front of the Supreme Court. Did she ever argue a case on gender, that women aren't women and men aren't men, or in front of the Associate Attorney General, Jackson, who wouldn't define a woman? I'm just curious. Again, I will always point this out, the schizophrenia, the hypocrisy, the first woman this and the first woman that when it comes to liberals and Democrats and radical causes. And then when you point out, I thought we're not supposed to identify by gender. They're so moronic, it's not even funny. But we have this judge, and there's several of these on the circuit court, because what Obama and Harry Reid did is they expanded the circuit court, the appellate court in Washington, D.C., by several seats, and the Democrats put in some of the biggest kooks imaginable, probably her. She's probably one of them. This court, this three-judge panel, has her, an Obama appointee, Henderson, a judge who was appointed by George H.W. Bush, and then another judge who was appointed by Trump. Considering the Democrat radical kooks outnumber the Republicans, it's a pretty good draw, 2-1. I hope it's 2-1. We'll see what the Bush judge does anyway. But I want you to hear some of this back and forth. I think we're going to wait because I don't want to rush it. We're going to take a little break, and then I want to play it for you. But again, I want you to keep some context here, which is if these people were stopped at the border, they would have been arrested and imprisoned right there or returned immediately. We have a district court judge who doesn't even follow the own procedures in that court, even though he's the chief district court judge in that district, which is put your orders in writing, especially when you're dealing with the bureaucracy, so it can be copied and several copies can be made and handed out to the relevant people. He's looking to hold the Trump administration in contempt. I can tell by the way he's conducting himself. He's a complete loose cannon. They'll tell you he was appointed by Reagan to an earlier position, or Bush, I guess it is, not Reagan. Bush. I've explained how those deals are made. He's not a Bush judge, even though he was appointed by Bush, any more than the senior status federal district judge in Seattle is a Reagan judge, even though he was appointed by Reagan. These are radicals, extreme radicals. And the truth is, on first principles, regardless of how these Venezuelan gang members were deported or on what basis they are, it's none of the judge's damn business. The administration said this is a national security and foreign policy issue, which it clearly is. This is an international criminal enterprise. That's what it is. And these judges just don't care. They don't care about our security. They claim to be defending the Constitution. They don't even believe in the Constitution. The more radical they are, the more they reject the Constitution. They believe in their own personal little constitution.